Practice on multiplying and dividing decimals, including negatives. So yesterday we began with multiplying and dividing positive decimals. Today the only difference is going to be including the negatives. So that's not big of a difference, but let's just review some of the steps we talked about yesterday. So multiplying decimals, it includes 4 steps. Step number 1, make sure that you are aligning the digits to the right. So this means that you do not have to align the decimal point. That only applies to adding and subtracting. For multiplying decimals, it does not matter. Step number 2, do the multiplication without the decimals. So this is saying, without looking at the decimal point, just do your multiplication as if you were doing the numbers or multiplying the numbers without the decimal point. Step number 3, count total number of digits behind the decimal point. So once you have completed your multiplication, you have to figure out where you have to place your decimal point. And the first step to that is you need to count the numbers between or from the decimal point to the right, all the way to the right of the number, to both numbers, and then calculate that. And then the last step is for you to place the decimal point, depending on how many number of decimal points it was from the left of both of your numbers. And then when you are dividing decimals, remember that the step 1 was to, if your divisor is not a whole number, rewrite the problem so that it is a whole number. Do this by moving the decimal to the end of the divisor, then moving the decimal in the dividend the same number of spaces. So basically this is saying once you have set up your division, you need to make sure that your divisor, the number outside of the hat, cannot have a decimal point. And in order to make it a whole number, you have to move the decimal point all the way to the right. And once you have done that, you have to move it the same number of times you moved it to the divisor to the dividend, the number inside of the hat. Step 2, decimal goes straight up from the dividend to the quotient. So remember that quotient means the answer to your division problem. So once you have done your division, you just need to place your decimal point that you moved right above the answer. So it just aligns with your answer. Step number 3, use division algorithm. So you should have gotten your answer once you have done that. All right, solve the following problems. We have a few naked problems with multiplying and dividing decimals that include negatives. It says number 1, 8.61 times negative 7.9. So our first step was to just align the digits to the right. So that's what I'm going to do. 8.61 times 7.9. So I'm not going to put the charge yet. And then I'm just going to, step number 2, do the multiplication without the decimals. So I'm just going to disregard the decimal point and just multiply it out. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 6 is 54, carry the 5. 9 times 8 is 72, plus 5 is 77. Add your 0 once you are onto the next row. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 6 is 42, carry the 4. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 4 is 60. Now you just need to add these numbers straight down. 9 plus 0 is 9. 4 plus 7 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. And then 6 comes straight down. Now I'm going to use a different color to represent how I'm going to place my decimal point. So I know that step number 3, we need to count the total number of digits behind the decimal, which is to the right. That's 2 places right there. That's 1 place right there. Add those 2 numbers up, and then we have 3 places. Now we're going to use those 3 places, come all the way down, and then use it on our answer. But now we have to move it to the left. So our decimal point goes right here. So our final answer is that right there, but just make sure that you are putting in your final answer with the charge. Let's figure out what charge we have to have. Is it a positive or a negative? So let's go back to our expression. We know that it was a positive times a negative. And looking at our Dorito man, we know that a positive times a negative gives you a negative. So we know that our final answer is going to be 68.019. A lot of people like to use the tic-tac-toe board, so this also represents that it should have given you a negative answer. Right there. Okay, so 68 or negative 68.019 or 19 thousandths would be our answer. All right, so now let's begin our second problem with division. So it says negative 12.07 divided by 7.1. So remember, guys, if it says negative 12.07 divided by the 7.1, this number right here needs to be our divisor. Okay, so when we say divisor, that would be the number that is on the outside or the outside of our division hat, and then I'm going to put my 12.07 inside our dividend. So this would be how we set it up. So now we're going to use our steps to do this. So our first step was making sure that your divisor did not have a decimal point. And it looks like we do, so we have to move it over all the way to the right so that we can make it a whole number. And we just moved it once, so that means we have to move it the exact same number of time to the dividend. So we finally have it there. So now we can X that out if you want. Does not matter how you do it, you can erase it. So now it's actually saying 120.7 divided by 71. Okay, so that's how we made that 7.1 into a whole number. So let's start our division. So I know that if I take the 71, I need to first begin with the first number. 71 cannot go into 1, so I'm not going to put anything above that. 71 cannot go into 12, so I'm not going to put anything over that. Some people like to put 0, that's totally fine. And now I'm going to look at the third number. 71 can go into 120, so I'm going to say 71 can go into 120. I'm not going to say twice, that seems a little bit too much, so I'm going to say 1. And I know that 71 times 1 is just 71. So let's subtract that and figure out if this is correct. So now I'm going to subtract by borrowing. 10 minus 1 is 9. 11 minus 7 is 4. That's just 0. So I end up with 49. So yes, 49 is less than 71, so that 1 is correct. If it was larger than 71, we know that it could have gone into that number twice. I'm going to bring down my 7, and now I'm going to look at how many times 71 goes into 497. This is a tricky number, so I'm just going to do a guess and check on this side. So let's see how many times you think 71 would go into 497. So I'm going to guess about 7 times. So if I do my multiplication on the right, I get exactly 497. So what a coincidence. So I'm going to subtract that and end my division problem. So again, if you got 6 or 8, or if you guessed a different number, you constantly have to make sure that you are checking and guessing on the side to make sure that you are ending up with the correct number that you have divided it into. So now we have that 7 up there, and this concludes our division, but we need to make sure that we are setting up our decimal point in the correct spot. And this is the next step. We have to align the decimal and bring it right above our quotient, our answer. And we get 1.7. So we do have our division completed, but now we have to see what charge is going to stick with this 1.7. Is it a positive or a negative? Well, we know that it was a negative divided by a positive. So when we look at the Dorito Man or our tic-tac-toe board, we know that a negative divided by a positive would give you a negative. So our answer should be negative 1.7. Number 3, negative 8.35 divided by negative 5. So again, our second number is our divisor when we have an expression like this. So 5 divided by 8.35. So now let's look at our step number 1. Do we have a decimal inside our divisor? We do not this time, so that means we do not have to roll over our decimal place values to anything. So we just need to start our division. So this nicely works out. 5 goes into 8 one time, so I'm going to subtract the 5 from the 8, bring down the 3. 5 goes into 33 6 times. Just notice that I am putting that 6 right above the 3 so I don't get confused later. 5 times 6 is 30. Subtract it from 33. Get 3. Bring down the 5. 5 goes into 35 exactly 7 times. Roll that decimal point above. the exact place when you got your quotient, and it would be 1.67. And now I need to figure out what charge we're going to end up with. This time we did negative divided by a negative. A negative and a negative gives you a positive when multiplying and dividing. So we end up with a positive 1.67. And that concludes our problem. Number 4, 6.5 times 3.8. So we have a multiplication problem this time. We have to align all those numbers on the right. We do not have to align the decimal point. 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4. 6 times 8 is 48 plus 4 is 52. Add the 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19. And then we just need to add it straight down. And then we have one place to the right, one place to the right, making it 2 places to the left for our answer. So our final answer is 24.70 or 7. And then let's figure out what charge we get. We know that it was a positive times a positive. So obviously that should give us a positive answer. 24.70 should be our final answer. All right. Write an expression and then solve the following word problems. Now we have some word problems. Let's figure out what we're supposed to do. Number 5, it says Diana, Elena, and Hannah ate lunch in a restaurant. The bill is $27.75. If they share the bill equally, how much will each person pay? So let's look at some keywords. So I know that there are 3 people, 3 girls. The bill came up to be a total of $27.75. If they shared the bill equally, how much will each person pay? So we have some keywords, and the keyword that we can look at definitely would be that word each. If it says per, each, or every person, it usually means to divide, because we're looking at how much each of those 3 girls paid if they wanted to share the bill equally. And we know that the total bill was $27.75. So how would we write this in the expression form or the equation form? Well, we know that we would have to start off with the total bill. The total always comes first when dividing. And then how many girls were there? Divided by 3 girls. Diana, Elena, and Hannah. And this should give us the answer to this problem. So let's divide. The divisor is the second number, so it goes on the outside. The total bill goes in the inside, dividend. And now we can divide this. 3 does not go into 2, but 3 goes into 27 exactly 9 times. Bring down to 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. Bring down the last number, 5. 3 goes into 5 times. And then make sure that you align the decimal point and it goes back on the quotient. And then this concludes our division. So each girl, each person, Diana, Elena, or Hannah, they all paid each a $9.25 to the bill. Number 6, John runs for 2.25 hours, burning 375.5 calories per hour. How many total calories does he burn? So now we have some keywords again. So he ran for 2.25 hours. This burnt 375.5 calories per hour. How many total calories does he burn? So this problem has the word per, but does not mean necessarily it's going to be a division problem, because if you think about it in John's shoes, he ran for the 2 hours, 2.25 hours, but he knows that he burns 375.5 calories per hour, which is 1 hour. How many calories in total did he burn? So this total means multiplication right there. So we can just write this expression as 2.25 times 375.5, and this should give us our answer. So I'm going to use our rules that we learned, our steps, and I'm going to align these 2 numbers all the way to the right of our equation. All right, so one little tip that I would like to give you is that you would always try to put the number that has the more digits on the top of your multiplication problem. That makes it a lot easier. All right, so now we're going to multiply it out. 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 is 27, carry the 2. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37, carry the 3. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. Add a 0, and then roll on to the next number. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, carry the 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Add the 2 zeros for your third row. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. All right, so now we just need to add it straight down. 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 plus 0 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 plus 5 plus 13, or 13, 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 1 is 14, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 7 is 9, 9 plus 5 is 14. Those are a lot of numbers. 7 plus 1 is 8. Okay, and you don't have to do any of the method that I am using. I just like to cross it out just so that I can tell you and show you guys that I have done that column. All right, so now our last step is to figure out where our decimal point goes, and we have to go to the original problem. It's 1 away from the last decimal point, and then 1, 2 away from the left. So we know that if you add those, it gives you 3 decimal points going to the left. So 1, 2, 3, our decimal points goes right there. So our final answer, if we rewrite it, is going to be 844.875. So this would be in the units of calories. And we don't have to worry about negative or positives. All right, number 7. It says, Anaya earns $9.40 per hour working at an animal shelter. How much money will she earn for 18.5 hours of work? So let's highlight some keywords. 9.5 or 9.40 or $9.40 per hour. And she earned 18.5 hours of work. So if you know that she earned $9.40 per hour, meaning 1 hour, and she worked for 18.5 hours, what would be the total amount of money she earned? So in this case, this would be multiplication. So 9.40 times 18.5 would give you the expression, or would be giving you the answer to this expression. So now we're going to follow our aligning rules, and I'm going to say 9.40 times 18.5. Some students might get rid of the 0 to make it easier, so you can do 18.5 times 9.4, and this can make it easier. But either methods work. All right, so I'm going to do the first method. So 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 2 is 47. Add the 0. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 4 is 32, carry the 3. 9 times 8 is 72, plus 3 is 75. Add the 2 zeros. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 9 is 9. Right, 0 plus 0 is 0, 0, 0, 0, adding them together is 0, 7 plus 2 is 9, 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 4 is 13, carry the 1, 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 9 is 17. Okay, and then 1, 2 places over, 1 place over, add them together, it's 3, 1, 2, 3. So you get 173.900, or you can take out the zeros. So it's going to be 173.9, and this is in dollars, so we can say it's 90 cents. So this is how much Anaya can earn after she have worked for 18.5 hours. All right, number 8, it says Andrew spent $11.52 for some pens that were on sale for 72 cents each. How many pens did Andrew buy? So if he spent $11.52 and he bought a number of pens, it was 72 cents each. How many pens did he buy? So if we're looking at how many pens he bought when it was on sale for 72 cents each, and he spent a total of $11.52, this tells you that we would have to divide. So $11.52 divided by the 72 cents. So if we set it up, it's going to be 0.72 divided by 11.52. So using our rules, we're going to make sure that we do not have a decimal point in our divisor. Carry it over twice, carry over twice. Now it's 1,152 divided by 72. So let's do our division. It does not go into 1 or 11, but I know that 72 goes into 115 one time. So I'm going to subtract it, and this gives you 43. Carry down the 2. 72 goes into 432. About, let's check and guess on the side. I'm going to say 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 43 would be that. So it gives you exactly 432 if you put it in 6 times. Oops. And this concludes our division. Now we just need to make sure that we bring the decimal point up, and that's 16.0, which is the same thing as saying 16. So how many pens did he buy? He bought 16 pens, and that would be the final answer for this.